Hello, this is Conman. I live in Washington State. I wanted to ask about your position on radicalism and extremism. I've heard you say in the past things that would imply that they are inherently bad, but I'm wondering if you actually think that all radical or extremist ideologies are bad, and if that is the case, then I would wonder what has changed, because I would argue that our current system of like liberal democracy and everything was once upon a time politically radical. So I was wondering what has exactly changed? What made radicalism not bad in the 1800s but bad now? Thanks. Bye.
Extremely interesting voicemail. I really appreciate that. Usually when I'm talking about radicalism or extremism, I'm not talking about ideas or overarching ideologies necessarily. I'm talking about behaviors specifically. So, for example, a radical or extremist ideology would be one that encourages people to exhibit the behavior of shunning family members or shunning critics. A radical ideology would be one that believes in violence in some capacity to accomplish their goals. All cults, by definition, exhibit those radical traits, those radical behaviors, those extremist behaviors. And in my opinion, that's a problem. Ideas, to me, at the very least, are not necessarily radical. It's a different definition of radical. They can be way out there and they can be crazy and they can be unusual. But being a radical or being an extremist necessarily means, to me, that you are engaging in harmful behaviors, specific harmful behaviors. So obviously, abolitionists were considered radical at the time. Obviously, people who were for the Civil Rights Act in the 60s were considered radical at the time because at one point in time, at the very least, the majority of the United States was of the opinion that black people should continue drinking from colored water fountains and using the colored bathrooms. Were they extremists or radicals to desire a different way of doing things? No, absolutely not. It's not the belief necessarily that makes you an extremist or a radical. It's the behaviors. How do you go about accomplishing those goals? Or how do you go about preventing people from accomplishing those goals? That's what makes you an extremist, in my opinion. Also, I would say the hesitance to listen to criticisms. If you go through the BITE model, that's basically a big list of extremist behaviors that cults are using to make people more radical and extreme. If it's on the BITE model, then I have a problem with it. But the BITE model is usually making reference to behaviors and attempts to program behaviors into people rather than talking about ideologies specifically.